The devil gallops as we dream, and makes the grown-ups cry and scream. It leaves behind a trail of fire, and burns the bush, the brush, the grass, and briar. Its burning breath and awful braze will fan the smoke and spread the blaze. So keep away from sudden flame, or else your soul the devil will claim. Okay, so what even is it with children's nursery rhymes and abject terror? Seriously. Today, we're going to talk about the Sandpoint Devil in Pathfinder 2nd Edition on this episode of The Local Disaster Tour Guide. Happy Halloween, travelers and tourists. My name is Mark, and I am the local disaster tour guide. That's right, I am a storyteller who is living in denial that there is any player character focused content that comes with the Sandpoint Devil. Seriously, it doesn't exist. Welcome to a journey through the fantastic world of TTRPGs like Pathfinder and Starfinder. Today, we are continuing our Monsters of Myth series and taking a look at one of the most classic legendary monsters to be found in the entire Golarion campaign setting, the Sandpoint Devil. The Sandpoint Devil is described as a muscular horse that walks on its hind legs, has two gigantic bat wings, a long dragon or lizard's tail, and it breathes fire and screams a terrible scream that sends panic into the hearts of men. Also, I'm a little concerned about the Paizo employee who came up with this creature. Are you okay? The Sandpoint Devil has been terrorizing player characters since early in Pathfinder 1st Edition's history, and today we're going to take a look at this classic creature. We're going to examine what is known of its origins, its story, and we're going to take a look at what it can add to your Pathfinder 2e game. The material from this video is pulled primarily from Lost Omens Monsters of Myth. That was published earlier this year, and I didn't get a chance to do a proper review, but I'm using Halloween as an excuse to take a look at some of the famous monsters inside of it. But we're also going to be looking at some content from the Sandpoint Devil that can be found in Bestiary 2 for Pathfinder 2e as well. So let us prepare ourselves to face one of the greatest spiritual representations of evil, malice, and hate the world has ever known by doing all of the YouTube stuff, like remembering to like, share, and subscribe, and checking out my free Discord and my Patreon, both of which are linked in the video description. What? I think that Relentless Evil is a natural segue into feeding the YouTube algorithm, okay? Secret Sandpoint Devil origin unlocked. But seriously, I also invite you to jump down into the comments section. Let me know your thoughts, your ideas. Give me your feedback on the Sandpoint Devil. This has been a classic Pathfinder monster for a while, so I would love to hear how you have used or fought this creature, and I would like to know how it has impacted your stories or how you might use it in the future. But with all that out of the way, let's get started. Now, usually in this series, I like to split this video into a couple of parts. I like to begin with player character-oriented content, and then after I've talked about what players might get from engaging with a particular monster, then I move on to storyteller-focused content and dig a little bit deeper, and I do that so that players don't have to risk spoiling important story beats. But I'm glad to say that there is absolutely no player character-oriented content to be found in Lost Omens Monsters of Myth when it comes to the Sandpoint Devil. Please don't check. I said no. No. I said no! Fine. Yes, there is player character-oriented content for the Sandpoint Devil. If you're a player who wants to join the Church of Lamashtu, you can learn a special level 6 ritual called Form of the Sandpoint Devil. Now you know. Please don't. But in all seriousness, there's not actually a lot of player character-oriented content when it comes to the Sandpoint Devil. This creature is primarily just kind of a classic villain, a classic foe that players get to go up against. It's one of those like stories that binds Pathfinder players together. What is your first memory of using or fighting the Sandpoint Devil? So from this point forward, players, if you're watching this video, I'm going to recommend that you stop watching, but send your Game Master this way so that they can learn a little bit more about the Sandpoint Devil, what it is, how to use it, and how it might impact their game. Who knows, you soon may be facing the Sandpoint Devil at a Pathfinder table near you. Alright, Game Masters, let's talk about the Sandpoint Devil. I've already mentioned that this creature is an iconic monster for Pathfinder. This is something that is very strongly associated with Paizo and their work. It was in Pathfinder 1st Edition. I remember running it against my players in Pathfinder 1E, and almost taking down a few PCs before they managed to regroup. So this creature has been around for a while, and it is just a classic monster that you can drop on your players in a Pathfinder game. Varisia is a classic part of the Golarion setting, and the Sandpoint Devil is a classic creature from that portion of the setting. So Game Masters, this is a creature that you are likely to want to use at some point anyways. Which brings me to my first piece of commentary on the Sandpoint Devil, which is, for such a popular monster, while we have plenty of stats, we don't have a lot of concrete lore. We do know where the Sandpoint Devil is. It is located in Varisia. It is located near the town of Sandpoint, and there is a particular area of geography known as the Devil's Platter, which is this jagged and rocky series of plateaus that house the Devil's home. The Sandpoint Devil lives inside of the Devil's Pit, somewhere on the Devil's Platter, which is a long and intricate cave system that is home to a myriad of dark creatures, from ghouls to goblins to who knows what else might be down there. And at the deepest point of the Devil's Pit, you can find the lair of the Sandpoint Devil himself. Many adventurers have tried to climb the Devil's Platter. Many adventurers have tried to descend into the Devil's Pit, and yet the Devil continues to torment the towns in and around Sandpoint, meaning that this monstrosity, as of yet, roams free. And with that, I have given you pretty much all of the concrete lore on the Sandpoint Devil. We know what it looks like, we know roughly where it lives, and from there, basically everything else is presented as rumor, hearsay, and fabricated exaggeration of a population that lives in fear of whatever this creature might be. Common lore in and around Sandpoint claims that the Sandpoint Devil is the child of Lamashtu and Pazuzu, though if that is the case, no one has ever been able to prove it, and the Church of Lamashtu does not seem to work directly with or control the Sandpoint Devil in any way. At least, the Sandpoint Devil seems to be a free agent or a ball of chaos that no one can contain. So, the actual origins of the Sandpoint Devil are largely for you as a storyteller to decide. Like, I'll be honest, at my gaming table, my version of Golarion and the Pathfinder setting, I have decided what the Sandpoint Devil is. I'm not going to share that for this video just because I don't want to twist whatever you might come up with, but Paizo deliberately leaves the origins of the Sandpoint Devil open so that you can decide exactly what it is and what it means to your campaign setting. I guess I can spoil a little bit of my approach to the Sandpoint Devil and say that, at least at my table, because I use the Sandpoint Devil in Pathfinder 1st Edition, there is the Sandpoint Devil, and then there is the original mythic Sandpoint Devil. And I guess that's enough of a teaser of how I approach things. You, as a storyteller, you get to decide exactly how you want to use this creature. In fact, if I had to give the Sandpoint Devil anything that you can latch onto as a storyteller, it would be the fact that Paizo has specified the Sandpoint Devil has the Fiend trait, and in Lost Omens Monsters of Myth, the Sandpoint Devil is described as being forged of the spiritual essence of evil, malice, and hate. So, take that, run with it, have fun. But as I've said, there's not a lot of concrete lore on exactly what the Sandpoint Devil is, where it comes from, anything like that. But Paizo is pretty generous in giving us the stats of the Sandpoint Devil. The Sandpoint Devil stats can be found on page 230 of the Bestiary 2 for Pathfinder 2nd Edition, and I will also be throwing a link to the Sandpoint Devil from Archives of Nethys into the video description below. Although I do recommend checking out the chapter on the Sandpoint Devil in Monsters of Myth, because they do a very good job of building up the story around the Sandpoint Devil, and there's a lot of stuff you can sink your teeth into that is not just the stat block. But the Sandpoint Devil itself is a unique 8th level fiend and represents a pretty dangerous threat to any party that faces it. It comes with some basic physical combat abilities like Trample and Attack of Opportunity, and the Sandpoint Devil also has an array of occult spells at its disposal, such as Phantasmal Killer and Obscuring Mist. However, the two most iconic abilities of the Sandpoint Devil are the Accursed Breath and the Devil's Howl. The Accursed Breath is a fire breath weapon that the Sandpoint Devil can use, but creatures that fail or critically fail their saves against the Accursed Breath may find themselves permanently scarred, possibly even cursed, by the flames that the devil has spit out. So even if a character survives an encounter with the Sandpoint Devil, they may be scarred for years, maybe even for life, by this particular creature. Another ability that I really enjoy is the Devil's Howl. And at first glance, the Devil's Howl is one of those abilities that you kind of expect and you could gloss over if you weren't paying attention, because it's basically the AoE fear effect that most big scary creatures are going to get. Fear effects are par for the course when it comes to big legendary creatures, but what I really like about the Devil's Howl ability is it is a 100-foot emanation. Yes, that's right, Devil's Howl extends 100 feet in every direction from the Sandpoint Devil. Which means if the Sandpoint Devil can get close to or even in the middle of a group, it can completely scatter its enemies. By the way, I did this in my Pathfinder 1st Edition campaign, but it worked beautifully then and it's still completely viable in Pathfinder 2e. The Sandpoint Devil can use Obscuring Mist as a spell, and it has this Devil's Howl. If you're a storyteller who really wants to torment your poor players, have the Devil use Obscuring Mist to get in close to the party, drop this AoE Devil's Howl Frightened effect on your party, and watch them scatter. As a storyteller, it was hilarious watching my party scatter in all of these different directions and then suddenly be lost in the mist, trying to survive the attack of the Sandpoint Devil while also trying to find their allies who had run in completely different directions. That is a freebie on how to make a Sandpoint Devil fight completely terrifying. But as you can imagine, the Sandpoint Devil is a major challenge, and a party that fights its way onto the Devil's Platter, into the Devil's Pit, finds the Devil's Lair, and actually confronts the Sandpoint Devil, achieving victory over this thing is going to be a massive, massive undertaking, and players who succeed at such a task should naturally feel a grand sense of accomplishment. Which is why Paizo totally gives us the stats in Monsters of Myth for the Spectral Devil, which is the malice-filled spirit of the Sandpoint Devil haunting the world after the Sandpoint Devil's death. Paizo, do we need to ask some serious questions about your writers? Yes, that's right. Just because your party manages to take down the Sandpoint Devil, it doesn't mean that malice and hate stays dead. The spirit is free to roam, and as a 10th level undead challenge, if the party is not able to take this creature down, there's a very real possibility the Sandpoint Devil could return in the future. Now, I will say the Spectral Devil, other than just being undead and having its stats bumped up to 10th level, the Spectral Devil does seem to be an easier fight, relatively speaking, than the Sandpoint Devil. It loses some abilities going from its flesh version to its ghostly version, and that's a reasonable thing. But as a game master, you can definitely have some fun with the exhausted players who discover that the Sandpoint Devil they took down a couple of months ago, its ghost is back and that ghost is looking for a new host to create a new devil. But let's talk story, because a monster is more than just a stat block, and the way you use a monster in a story is ultimately going to impact how memorable it is. And with the Sandpoint Devil, you do want to take some time and consider how to use it in the story of your game. Now, when you deal with a creature where Paizo is deliberately leaving the origins vague, that does make it a little bit hard to pin down exactly how to use it. Paizo does give us an approach in Monsters of Myth that I think is a pretty interesting approach, but it is far from the only one you could take. There are certainly other ideas you can try. However, Paizo recommends a storyline that can be referred to as the Devil's Disciples. As I have previously mentioned, most of the information on the Sandpoint Devil is rumor, it's exaggeration, it's hearsay, it is false information repeated so many times that nobody realizes that it's just a rumor run rampant. Well, one of the rumors that surrounds the Sandpoint Devil is that as the child of Lamashtu and Pazuzu, the Sandpoint Devil is actually a god in the process of being born, and that when the Sandpoint Devil becomes sufficiently powerful, it will ascend to godhood. Monsters of Myth introduces a character by the name of Jordis Munt, who has fallen hook, line, and sinker for this completely false belief around the Sandpoint Devil. Jordis is convinced that the Sandpoint Devil needs to consume only 11 more souls of a very specific type, and if the Sandpoint Devil does, it will ascend to godhood and bestow its favor upon its most ardent worshippers. You can see where this is going, right? So essentially, Paizo gives us the sample storyline, if you will, of the town of Sandpoint or some other town in and around Varisia being tormented by sightings of the Sandpoint Devil, real or fabricated, and a cult that is worshiping this devil and trying to collect the right souls to feed the Sandpoint Devil. By the way, this is an easy way to get your party involved in this story, because Jordis Munt can totally come to the wild and baseless conclusion that one of your players has the appropriate characteristics to be one of the 11 souls the Sandpoint Devil needs. But essentially, the low-level stories build around disappearances, sightings of the devil, and different attacks the creature may perform, building ultimately to the party going to the devil's platter, climbing up, finding the devil's pit, going through this essentially mega dungeon, and ultimately finding and defeating the Sandpoint Devil. After this, your players would essentially be heroes within the region, and probably enjoying more than a few accolades as a result, only for some of the mid-level adventures in your campaign to suddenly feature the emergence of the Spectral Devil I previously mentioned, the rage-filled spirit that is on a quest to regenerate its physical body. And so your players must go out and find a way to put the Spectral Devil to rest before a new Sandpoint Devil is born. Now you may be asking, how could this transfer to high-level campaigns? And this is where Paizo recommends, basically your players have really annoyed the Church of Lamashtu at this point. Now, we've said that there is no concrete evidence that the Sandpoint Devil was created by Lamashtu, and the Church of Lamashtu certainly does not control the Sandpoint Devil. They like where this is going, they're big fans of the work. And it's really easy to see how player characters who are involved in putting a stop to the Sandpoint Devil, maybe even the Spectral Devil, could earn the ire of powerful members of the Church of Pharasma, and how they might be targeted by the Church of Lamashtu, and ultimately how the Church of Lamashtu might send even more terrible and mutated creatures after your players in an effort to take them down. Now again, this is just one story that you can potentially tell. Like I said, in my Pathfinder 1st Edition campaign, I had the current Sandpoint Devil and the original Sandpoint Devil, which was a mythic creature I built using first edition rules. There are a ton of different ways you can take the Sandpoint Devil, but this is an iconic creature. It's terrifying, it's brutal, and to be honest, it's one of those fun stories that can really bond Pathfinder players together. Being able to share the first time that you fought it as a player or used it as a game master, this is just one of those cool things that Paizo gives us, and gives us some room to really play around with it. So that's all I've really got for you today. The Sandpoint Devil is one of those creatures where Paizo gives us some amazing stat blocks, some very vague rumors, and plenty of room to run and have a lot of fun. So let me turn the conversation over to you and see what you think about the Sandpoint Devil. Have you fought it or used it as a storyteller? How did that go? Are you interested in bringing the Sandpoint Devil into your campaign? And do you have any tips or tricks on how to make the Sandpoint Devil a memorable encounter for your players? Jump down into the comments section and let me know your thoughts. And I guess don't forget all the other YouTube stuff. Like, share, subscribe, check out Discord and Patreon. But as always, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for being part of the conversation. Have a wonderful day.